how to start this. So that's why I figured I'd hit record now and just start with, wow, it's been a strange couple of weeks since we last spoke.
It has. It really has. The turn of events and just the campaign and all has been a one for the records. I've never quite seen anything like this.
No, and the thing is, I think that it is great, and I'm not just talking about what we're doing, but the other events that you participated in,
Hmm.
and that's where I'm going to jump right into. My
Okay.
first question: is there anything you want to address, clear up, or follow up on? Not just the event on the 8th, but the other at Trilogy.
With so many things going on, I can't, to be honest, I can't even remember what those other couple forums had in them. It's as I said, this has been a nonstop um, merry-go-round. It's just like keeps going and going and going and going. And while it's exciting, it's been interesting.
To
So
say the very least. Well, I do have a couple of questions in here just in case, because uh,
okay.
I know the 8th seems like it was a month ago. And so, and certainly things have happened between the 8th and what is today, the 12th. So, wow, 96 hours. One of the things, before I even get into the whole thing, I was talking to one of the other candidates, and I found out that this is a part-time gig,
Hmm.
and I'm
Well,
wondering,
no, not the mayor. The mayor really isn't a part-time gig.
really,
It
okay,
it it I mean, if you're going to do it properly, it is a full, I mean, even as a council member, I'm putting in 30 to 40 hours a week. I do my research, I get out in the community, I meet with residents, returning emails, reading our documents. I mean, sometimes we get our agenda, well, we get our agendas Thursday evening, almost, 99% of the time. And we have until really Monday morning to read those. And if it's a 1,600-page document, then you're also having to pull your questions out that you need to formulate and send off to staff for clarification. And as well as questions that you're going to ask during the meeting, whether it's to staff or whether it's to the applicant. So it has definitely, it's a full-time gig if you do it properly.
let me rephrase. I didn't mean it like that. Yeah, I'm speaking more towards the income that you get
Yeah.
would not, to me, is considered a part-time job. And that's what I meant by it. I have no doubt
Okay.
that you, the other candidates, or the other people who already have their seats, I'm sure you put in a massive amount of hours, far more than
Yeah.
what salary indicates. But the reason I asked it was, uh, could it be that part of the problem vis-a-vis the juggling of what keeps the roof over your head and your belly fed and your commitment to us? um, do you think, and it's a rhetorical question for you, I'm sure, but do you think, if the salary was better compensated so that you would be able to dedicate um, your experience, yeah, your everything, but not have to worry about making the mortgage?
That's something that came up. Um, there was discussion of that with our past city manager that maybe by allowing the income to be higher, it would allow people to more people to want to come in here and do the job because there's a salary that's being paid that would compensate them, like you said, from their previous, from the job that they were doing. City council, I mean, back before I came here, it was, you didn't receive a salary at all. You received money for your travels to and from meetings, but that was it. And through the years, it's increased. It's been quite some time since the salary has increased in the city of Brentwood. There was also talk of attaching it to the CPI. And so that there's a cost adjustment each year to that salary. So it never really comes back to the city council to raise their own salaries, but it would compensate them based on whatever is happening in the community or the CPI for that time.
Okay. Because that, and I don't know, but this now, and here's where my logic is coming in, that the big hot button issue now has to do with donations. I'm not trying to get into any mudslinging or anything like that. Okay. But it is a concern. I mean, obviously, if you read some of the next door comments, it is a concern. And I don't know if it's because I don't know how the contribution system works. You know, if someone gives you $10, can you put that towards your campaign? And if you have $6 left after it's over, can you buy yourself a cup of coffee? I know that you can donate.
No, you can't.
Okay. Because I'm trying to reconcile, as many of our neighbors are, I guess, when somebody is so generous that, one can draw their own conclusions. Again, I'm not trying to call out anybody. If you wish to, knock yourself out. But
that's not my
but it just seems like there's a disparity, and trying to understand why there is such a disparity.
You know what, I can't tell you why one organization will donate a substantial amount of money compared to the others. I don't know what's behind their reasoning for doing that. And I'm not going to even get into guessing on that. I do know that based on the comments from the public and the outrage, I am going to request that we do a future agenda item that limits campaign contributions. I think that we need to come together and the community to let us know what's acceptable and what's not. I mean, this year I did receive a $5,000 donation. That was from my parents. My stepmother in particular is the one who wrote the check. So I put her name down there. I've never had a donation that large. I think the biggest donation I even got in my last campaign was $1,500, and that was from the electricians. And my brother was a lifetime electrician. Actually, had signed, was part of that actual local for a period of time. That one, and I think one in the San Bruno area.
Okay.
And Santa Clara.
Okay. What you raised briefly, and I had to type it before I forgot. Some people would consider unions the same way they would consider developers. There's an argument that could be made about that, because you could work for Dorman Development, and and me being the boss, I could say, yeah, Jimmy, really like to see you donate to that Karen, and that's wrong. But what's the difference then between that and a union boss saying, Jimmy, you ought to really donate, or Jimmy, we're going to donate to Karen on your behalf? What are your thoughts on that? Because you have, and I know you're proud of it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
Mhm.
some would argue that unions are in the same bucket as developers.
Yeah, unions teach a trade. They support the members that are there. They have an apprentice program. They have a job hub for their members to be able to find work. They have community service. I mean, they really implore their members to get out into the community and work. I mean, some of them went out to work at the Delta stand down event for the veterans, a 4-day event. Some of them had actually the gazebo in downtown Brentwood was all done by labor at no cost to the city. So and they don't all just work residential. They work commercial too. Um, so it's more about a jobs from them than it is for residential, and development. Um, yeah, it's not something that I'm concerned about. Have I thought about not accepting the donations? It's crossed my mind, especially in the climate that we're having right now, not to take any more donations. I even talked with my husband about it this morning about what do you think? I mean, should we even return the money that's come to us just because of the climate that's out there? And it is something that I'm contemplating doing and will most likely do.
Okay. And again, I'm not slamming unions, whether it's the police union, carpenters, fill in the blank. Okay. But as you were speaking, I had to type this down too. All the things that you had said, what unions do for the community and everything, you could take that word out and put developers in and really not see a difference. Developers have contributed to the community. Developers do have apprenticeship programs and on and on and on. So it's not a slam. It's more of a, if we're going to give developers, a hard time, should there be some type of equity? Your mom, your mother-in-law donating 5,000, that's a beautiful thing. If I had that kind of money and my daughter-in-law was running for office, which she might because she moved here recently.
It's my stepmom, not my
Your
mother.
stepmom. Oh, I'm sorry. We're so close in the community. I was just going to say your mom. Is your mommy or dad?
Well, she is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, literally, like with me. I don't want to go down rabbit hole.
She broke her hip earlier this year, and we were at the hospital, and her son was standing out there, and my dad, her husband was standing right out there, and she wanted me in the room, not the rest of them. so yes.
Oh no, that's my family. My mom will take my wife's side every single time. It left me out in the cold and stuff like that. But this is about you, not about me. Now, there was a comment, and I wrote it down or copied and pasted it because I want to say it as accurately as I read it. And now I'm going to read it to you and then ask for your comment. And this is relating to the October 8th event, the reason a candidate did not participate. I was invited to both forums and found both to be sorely lacking. I was flat out told by a source at the press how many people would take the time to watch the debate, and I had to decline for two compelling reasons. One, I believe the Zoom type platform is for meetings only. Two, I petitioned strenuously for a safe person-to-person debate. Another factor was based on sources familiar with voting in previous elections. So now my question, what are your thoughts about not just the candidate, but this particular candidate, but anyone who decides not to participate. And with the conversations we've had and the participation you have had in similar events, has that changed your perspective, your personal perspective, based upon the dialogue? It was a whole complex set of questions in there, and I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, no, you know what? Part of running for office is getting out and letting the community hear from you. It's easy to direct somebody to a website where you've already spent time creating the perfect answers to that, or answering emails where you have time to think about your answers. But a forum allows people to see you in action. A lot of these forums took questions from the public beforehand. The trilogy did, and as well as the chambers. And they got the questions from the community, and they posed those questions to us. So I think if a candidate really wants to be taken seriously, they needed to take part in this. They needed to show the public that what their answers are, not a canned answer, what their answers are. And I'll tell you, it's not easy. You're sitting there and you've got 2 minutes or 90 seconds to put out all the information that you think is pertinent to that question. And when it's on the fly, it's not easy. And it's easy to sit there and be a Monday morning quarterback and say, well, I would have done this and this and this and this. But the reality is that you've got so much time to answer a question, and you try to get as much in there as you can.
Fair enough. Not disagreeing with you. That's why I even started this little thing, to get to know you and the other candidates. Let's talk about fire.
Okay.
Okay. Now, and I have to read this because I want to make sure I say this correctly. But I had a conversation with a candidate regarding the fire district, and the relationship the fire district has with the cities and with funding. So, as you know, I am all for an emergency declaration stopping all development until the kids resolve the problem of fire mitigation. And I say kids, that's the nicest word. That's the nicest noun that comes to mind, people. So there's no dispute about what I feel about this. But in this dialogue, I was given answers why it can't be done. Yeah, the moratorium, or persuading developers to play along with Brentwood, or they give the threat of going to Antioch or going to Oakley and bringing their business there. And that's fair enough. But even if, let's look at Amazon, for example. Let's say Amazon could have come here to Brentwood, okay? But because the developer wasn't, coming up with the funds necessary to cover fire mitigation, they went to Oakley. Well, now, and this was my point, maybe they're getting favorable fees in Oakley, but the fire district is getting fees. Maybe they get $1 from us and they're only getting 80 cents from Oakley, but they are getting 80 cents. As of right now, they're not getting anything. So to me, that sounds like more of we want to resolve this fire problem because we, Brentwood, want to get those fees, as opposed to helping the fire district. And so my argument, going back now to a full stop in Brentwood, it doesn't hurt the fire district because they're not getting the money anyway. If the developers decide they're going to, pull up stakes and go to another city, that's going to cost money to do that. So it seems like it would be in everyone's best interest to stop giving reasons why we can't do something and start giving answers or suggestions as to how to do something. So, your thoughts?
Well, first off, Brentwood is no longer allowing builders to come in here and build without providing community facility district assessments for fire, specifically for fire. We are requesting that they do that. And we've already adopted the increased fire developer impact fees for the city of Brentwood. And it was a significant increase for commercial. I mean, it was a significant increase for commercial. But we've also created the Economic Development Incentive Plan, which we've got funding for those types of jobs that will bring in either significant tax or they have to have there's 2 out of 4 different qualifying factors, and they have to qualify for 2 of those factors. One of them is bringing in 25 or more employees. Another one is reaching a certain dollar amount in, I think, sales tax revenue. And I'm sorry, I forgot what the other 2 are that we just passed that. So we can use those for those types of companies that come in where we think that they are going to be a huge benefit for our community. And so we'll use that to level the playing field when it comes to developer impact fees. We're not reducing it or not collecting it like Oakley is currently doing. We cannot continue to build in this city without providing the funding necessary for long-term staffing and for being able to build fire buildings. Now, we currently have funding to build a fire building or fire station on Empire and Grant, and we're in the design build process for that. Okay. So that'll be the second station that we have. The third station, they've talked about maybe retrofitting or doing something with the downtown station. We would need to find funding for that. But the new development that is coming in is going to continue to pay that higher rate developer impact fees to help build those stations. I'm not sure why Oakley is not stepping up to the plate on this. It was very discouraging to read the letter that the fire district sent to them regarding the lack of collecting the appropriate fees, both developer impact fees and the community facility district assessments for the staffing. We cannot let developers build here and stretch our fire district even thinner than they currently are. We can't do that.
Right, and that's the whole thing. We know what we can't do. Now, yeah. As you were speaking, I received this link from CBS News. East Bay Fire calls on Oakley. Hold on, it's expanding. Oh, to pause new development, pay more for service. So it sounds like at least individuals in Oakley are starting to acknowledge this as well. But
that's the fire district calling for that. That's not individuals.
Oh yeah, well, I figure the fire district are our neighbors, and they have a vested interest because they don't want their home to burn to the ground. But maybe this is old news from the standpoint, yes, they've done this before. But again, I'm selfish. I'm worried about my neighbors here, and there was a story because I can't verify it, but I guess there was a council meeting once where a developer came in and gave reasons why this company wasn't going to provide any additional monies, and one of the reasons was that the plan was approved back in the early 2000s. And this now goes to my surprise of a no expiration date plan to develop. Is it fair to put the burden on new developers, particularly since I'm assuming some of these new developers may be minority owned, woman owned businesses, and the like, while giving a pass to developers who have already broken ground?
So first off, when in 2002, when this fire district was created, the supervisors knew at that point that the funding would not be available there for the district to become sustainable or to stay sustainable. They should have created the community facility district back then, along with a fire district impact fee for developers back then.
Mhm.
But they didn't create a district wide. So we can have developers pay for the impact that they have on our community. Absolutely. We currently have 4 community facility districts in Brentwood. From 2002 on, these community facility districts pay for fire, they pay for sewer, they pay for park services. They pay for a variety of things, and each one of those, there's a list of the services and the facility type of, or the infrastructure that they are responsible for paying for, or can pay for, not responsible, but that if funding was needed to come from that community facility district, if that is listed as an availability, there is an opportunity for the city to use that. But so we're already doing it. We're already doing the community facility districts, but fire is not part of that. We haven't created one that's fire specific. And when we create the fire specific one, we are voluntarily asking for developers to add this. Amber Lane was the first one to add it on. And that was because the fire district was trying to get the final numbers, and then was going to go out with a community, a district-wide community facility district. That funding goes straight to the fire district. You made a comment about we collect the fees and don't turn it over. We have been collecting the developer impact fees, but we've also been building the stations. We built Station 52 and we own it. We are in the process of building the station on Empire and Grant. And we then lease it to the fire district for a very low amount. I don't know, maybe it's $1. You can't quote me on that. I'd have to get that information. Sure. But it's not something that we are leasing them at any really cost. So absolutely, we need to have developers pay for the impact their development will have on our city. We can't make them pay for the deficit, but we can make them pay for the impact.
Okay. And the reason you probably saw my eyes go around was, yeah, I was going to follow up with well, why can't we? But I'll take your word for it that we can't. I guess my parting thought, when you become mayor, if you'll look into what the alternatives are, because anytime someone says voluntary and money, it rarely is, it rarely goes hand in hand. I can voluntarily pay my full taxes, don't have to write anything off, but I do, and so that's why.
We could also not approve the project if they're not going to provide for the impact.
It took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah. You
Um,
know, if they're not going to pay for the impact they're going to have on our community, we don't want them.
okay. Well, one last question, and this has to, again, because development, it seems like development is ground zero for everything else that is affecting us here in the city. And I guess that makes sense. Never really thought about it until this election cycle. So, because our future is dependent upon development, whether we expand or contract, whether it is, mixed use or residential or, um, fill in the blank.
Yes.
Um, what, going back to the magic wand, clear sky, what would be your top priority to corral these kitties that are called developers?
Can you clarify that a little bit
Sure.
better?
Well, everything, whether it's fire, whether it is changing of the city plan, whether it is amendments converting um, resident, no, commercial to residential. Um, it all stems from some type of decision making that starts at the developer level. And then they use their influence or whatever the case may be. So we talked about this once with regards to why don't we stick to the plan. So I guess I'm re-asking the same question of what would you do? What will you do when you become mayor to help get us back on track?
Well, I mean, sticking to the general plan is vital. I mean, we can't be changing commercial over to residential. That can no longer happen. It's it's vital. I mean, once you lose commercial, you never get it back, ever. I mean, that's what, residential developers are trying to do, is to change over to change commercial to residential. We can't do that. The fiscal sustainability, or the future fiscal sustainability of the city, depends on that commercial land, and we can't do anything to change that. We need to make sure that we uh, continue to go on the general plan, bring in the commercial that we have, and that's the way that we're going to keep the quality of life that we have here in Brentwood, by bringing in the businesses that will create that daytime traffic for our smaller businesses. While they go out to lunches, they go out shopping during their lunchtime, they stay after work and go out to dinner or to some type of entertainment in town. So that's going to create the foot traffic that's going to increase the sales tax. Currently, studies show that people shop where they work and they return where they live. So by bringing those jobs here, it's going to significantly increase our sales tax dollars, rather than seeing the 88% of our workforce, well, prior to COVID, 88% of our workforce was leaving Brentwood every day to work somewhere else. And surprisingly enough, I saw the 2001 general plan, and I want to say back then, 90% of the public was leaving Brentwood to go to work elsewhere. So once we get the job center here, those high quality jobs, your biotech, your high tech, your clean energy, research and development, advanced manufacturing, medical services, bringing all those jobs here is going to help to employ the people who work here in Brentwood, so that they're not having to spend hours a day commuting to work. It's going to also possibly create a reverse commute. Either way, it's getting traffic off the roadways, leaving Brentwood and returning here each day, and increase our sales tax dollars by bringing in daytime foot traffic into this area. So that's the important thing to do.
Don't disagree. Well, actually, now I have one truly last question. Tomorrow is the council meeting.
Uh-huh.
Are you ready? Because I think it's going to be a barn burner.
I think it's going to be a barn burner too. I saw the outrage on social media, and I really think that people are up in arms and are going to be speaking out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if it's anything like what I have read, yeah, it's boy, it's one of those times where COVID is probably, to the seated representatives' advantage as opposed to being inside the room. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I
woo,
mean,
boy.
we could probably spend so this week is only 151 pages. And while that's a very small agenda and we don't usually get anything that small, I think we will spend the majority of the evening in public comments at the beginning of the meeting. I really think we will.
I truly believe, and for you and for because you're regardless of what happens in November, you are responsible today as
Yeah.
well as the other people on say to the left and to the right of you. So yeah, it's going to be a barn burner. I'm definitely looking forward to it. So
Yeah, I probably should have some coffee before, or pull my Keurig up to the up to my desktop and and sit there and
yeah,
make some.
well, yeah, that's a beverage that you could pull to the side. I don't know if that would be my particular beverage, but yes, I would say be ready. Be ready,
Yeah,
be prepared, and thank you again for coming back.
absolutely.
I for those who are watching this, I hope I answer or asked the questions that were out there. I believe I did. And again, I appreciate you coming out. I look forward. I haven't seen it lately. Are you still doing the coffee with Karen?
It's been about 2 or 3 weeks since I had one, but I'm planning on getting a notice out for this weekend for another coffee with Karen. Yeah.
Cool.
I
I
you know
want to
what?
participate.
I love them. I mean, it's very informal. People come on, they ask me the questions, and while I have a set period of time, usually an hour and a half, um, I I'm not. I don't stop it at that. If people continue to have more questions, I am there to answer them for however long.
That's why I love the fact that you come on here. You know, I can record all day long. So the excuse of doesn't work. So
Yeah.
thank you very much, Karen. Best of luck to you. And folks, vote. Please, please, please vote. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Vote early. There is a drop-off box at City Hall. So if you drive into where the parking garage is, if just before you get there, you'll see there's a little small parking lot there. And where the utility billing is, there is a voting ballot box there. So make sure that you go in there and drop it off as early as possible. And let's make sure all those votes count.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you again, Karen. I'm going to
Right.
hit the
Thank you.
record stop button right